Hello everyone, welcome to our class. I am Jagimis Perez from the group 3 and today we are going to learn and discuss about contemporary literature. Please bear with us as we venture into the world of literature. What is a story? A story or narrative is a connected series of events sold through words, imagery, body language, performance, music, or any other form of communication. You can tell a story about anything, and the events described can be real or imaginary, covering both fiction and nonfiction. There are stories about all things and all times, the past, the present, and the future. Whenever you're telling somebody about a series of events, you are telling a story, no matter what the subject nor when they occurred. As such, stories are of great value to human culture and are some of the oldest, most important parts of life. Aside from being part of every single type of literature, stories are at the foundation of creativity and part of just about everything we do, particularly when it comes to entertainment, recording, and reporting of any forms. So, when they shared it in different ways from oral to written, storytelling or journalism to TV, film, and radio to fine arts, stage performances, and music. In one form or another, stories have been part of human culture and society for thousands of years since man has existed. They're found in every culture, religion, and ethnicity, in every region and language. So, all of that considered, the concept of a story is actually a bit difficult to fully cover or describe. Some would say that life is made up of a series of never ending stories. From a simple commute to school or work to all the events of our lives, everything has a story. The range of types of stories are very much endless. For this reason, we divide the story into two categories: fiction stories and non-fiction stories. Fiction stories are based on made up or imaginary events, such as fairy tales, mythology, love stories, adventure stories, historical fiction, science fiction, horror movies, bedtime stories, folklore, legends, drama, fantasy, epics, and ghost stories. While nonfiction stories can cover any kind of real time events or experience, historical events, news and current events, science, travel stories, memories and experiences, biographies and autobiographies, love, survivor stories, culture stories, crime and justice, family, and war stories. What's the importance of story? Stories are, have been, and always will be an absolute essential part of human culture. Stories are how we learn about each other, our past, and our cultures, whether they are created for entertainment or to recount a real life event. News stories are literally being lived, told, and created every second of every day.
Good day, everyone. I am Darine Marie Flores, and I will be the one to continue the task of the group 3. And my topic will be all about what is poetry. So, first question: what is poetry? When we say poetry, it is a type of literature based on the interplay of words and rhythm. So, it often employs rhyme and meter a set of rules governing the number and arrangement of syllables in each line. Now, in poetry, words are slung together to form sounds, images, and ideas that might be too complex or abstract to describe directly. So the opposite of poetry is prose. So that is a normal text that runs without line breaks or rhythm. So a example of a prose is an article. So that is the difference between poetry and a prose. Now, when we talk about poetry, there is structure. And under structure, there are elements, and those are the poetic line, the stanza, enjambment, placement, verse, and capitalization. So now, let's talk about first what is a poetic line. So a poetic line are the words that form a single line of poetry. So example, in a certain poem, when you look at a certain when you look into its structure, words that are being slung together or to create a certain idea into the poem, that is a poetic line. Now, example, it was the night before Christmas when all through the house is the well-known first poetic line of A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clark Moore. Now, the second part of the structure of a poetry is stanza. So when we talk about stanza, it is a section of a poem named for the number of lines it contains. So when we talk about a poetic line, it is a set of rules or a combination of words that creates a certain ideas into the poem. One line. Now, when we talk about stanza, on the other hand, it is the combination of poetic lines into a poetry. So, it might be a couplet or four lines that can form a certain stanza. Now, let's proceed to enjambment. So, when we say enjambment, when there is no written or natural pause at the end of a poetic line, so that the word flow carries over to the next line. So, when we talk about the structure of a poetry and it is enjambment, it is the poem is not written into a stanza form. It is being written into enjambment form, wherein the line there is no line breaks, like the continuation of words are can be connected or can be continued into the next line or the next poetic line. So there is no kanang line breaks into the poetic lines of the poem when we talk about enjambment. Now, when we talk about placement, it is the way words and poetic lines are placed on the page of a poem. So, example, the following are creatively placed lines from a poem by Ernest Cummings in Just Spring. When the world is malicious, the little lame balloon man whistles for a wee. So placement, when we talk about placement in a structure, it is the way words and poetic lines are placed on the page of a poem. So it is, when we talk about placement, it is how are we going to put a certain poetic line or way of words or a certain stanza into a poem. That is placement. So next, let's proceed to verse. So when we talk about verse, it is a line in traditional poetry that is written in meter. So we will be able to tackle further about meter later. Then verse, it is a line in traditional poetry that is written in meter. So anyway, what is meter? Meter is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line of poetry. So verse, of course, it is connected to meter. Then now let's have the example of verse. Example, in when I do count the clock that tells the time, from Shakespeare's Sonnet number 12, the underlined syllables are accented, giving the line a metric pattern known as an iambic pentameter. So, uh, the underlined words there are I, count, clock, tells, and time. So those are the stressed syllables in the poem, in the sonnet number 12 by William Shakespeare. Now let's proceed to the last part of the structure of a certain poetry or in poetry. So that is capitalization and punctuation. So in poetry, rules of capitalization and punctuation are not always followed. Instead, they are at the service of the poet's artistic vision. So, when we talk about capitalization and punctuation structure of a poetry, it is not commonly followed on how it is supposedly to be used. Not the same in prose, wherein it is the rules on how are you going those punctuations and capitalizations should be or strictly be followed. However, in poetry, capitalization and punctuations are being used. It depends upon the poet's artistic vision. It depends upon how are the poet use those capitalizations and punctuations as an art into entering that certain art or using that as an art into their poem or into the poetry. Now, after structure, we also have sounds and poetry. And under sounds, we are going to tackle about the rhythm, the meter, end rhyme, internal rhyme, rhyme scheme rather, assonance, consonance, and the alliteration. So when we talk about the sounds, rhythm, the basic beat and the line of a poem. So when we talk about poetry, it's not just a simple literature that doesn't even like somehow doesn't have an excitement. So through rhythm, it makes or gives life into the poem because we are following a certain rhythm when we are reading a certain poem. Because rhythm is the beat of a poem in a line of a poem. So example, whose words these are, I think I know, is the first time from Stopping by Words and a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Notice that the accented words underlined give the line a distinctive beat. So those where we would be able to identify the rhythm of a certain poem when there is unstressed or stressed syllables in the words that is being included into the lines of the poem. Now let's proceed to meter. When we talk about meter, it is a pattern of stress and unstressed, accented and unaccented syllables known as a foot in a line of poetry. So, in an iambic pentameter, in example, the pattern is 5 iambic accented plus accented feet in each line. See, then when we talk about meter, it is a pattern of stress and unstressed. So, when we talk about stress, it is the accented, and the unstressed is the unaccented syllables. So, when we talk about those stressed and unstressed syllables in poetry, it is known as the foot. So, in a line of poetry. So, when we say an iambic pentameter, the pattern is 5 iambic. So, when we talk about iambic, it is the unaccented plus accented repeated 5 times. So that is iambic pentameter. So those stressed and unstressed syllables, or somehow we're called the iambic pentameter, is an example of a meter. Now let's proceed to the end rhyme. End rhyme, same or similar sounds at the end of words that finish different lines. So, the following are the first two rhyming lines from the King of Cats Sends on postcard to his wife by Nancy Williard. Keep your whiskers crisp and clean. Do not let the mice grow lean. So when we talk about the end rhyme, it is the similar sounds at the end of the words or at the end of a two poetic line. So in a stanza, there are two poetic line. It might be sequential or they are next to each other two poetic line next to each other or there is a pattern. Now when we talk about the end rhyme, it is the similar sound at the end of at the end of the word in a certain poetic line, so that is end rhyme. Now when we say internal rhyme, on the other hand, same or similar sounds at the end of words within a line. So when we talk about within, it is within a line, not at the beginning, not at the ending, but within the line. So examples, a line showing internal rhyme underlined from The Rabbit by Elizabeth Maddox. Roberts, when they said the time to lewd was mine. So there is the internal rhyme is within within the within the within the poetic line. It is not in the ending, no, not in the beginning, but within. Now, when we talk about rhyme scheme, a pattern of rhyme in a poem. So, when we talk about the rhyme scheme, it is a pattern of end lines. Now, for example, we are not that new to rhyme scheme because we already have tackled this to different course that we have or that we have enrolled to. So when we say a rhyme scheme, it's either like we are using the alphabets in and identifying a certain sound in a certain poem. Like we are using A, B, C, D, and so on. So that is a rhyme scheme. So example, a quatrain, a stanza of 4 lines in which the second and fourth lines rhyme has the following rhyme scheme. Like example, A, B, C, B. So both the B rhyme scheme there, the B sounds there are the rhyme scheme. Now let's proceed to assonance. So when we talk about assonance, it is the repetition of vowel sounds within words in a line. So assonance, example, repetition of vowel sounds within words in a line. So the vowel sound of a certain words in a line are being repeated. So as I was saying, assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds within words in a line. So example, a line showing assonance underlined from A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clarke Moore. The children were nestled, all sang in their beds. So the words that is being the vowel sound that is being repeated there is letter E because it is being repeated multiple times in that line. So the children were nestled, all sang in their beds. So it is being repeated multiple times. So that is assonance, the repetition of vowel sounds within words in a line. So when we talk about, on the other hand, we have the consonants also. So when we talk about consonants, it is the repetition of consonant sounds within words in a line. So the same case with the assonance, but the difference is just in assonance, it is the repetition of vowel sounds within words in a line. However, in the consonants, we are talking about the repetition of the consonant sounds within a line or in a word. So example, a line showing consonants underlined from A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clarke Moore. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So the consonant sound that is being repeated are the sound of letter R, wherein it is being pronounced in the creature and as well as in the stirring. So The sound of the letter R, which is a consonant letter, is being repeated multiple times in the line. Now let's proceed lastly into the alliteration. So what is alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of the words. So when we talk about the consonants earlier, it is the repetition of the consonant sound within, or the repetition of consonant sound, a consonant sound within a word. Now, in alliteration, it is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of the words, not within the word. So, example, notice the alliteration underlined in Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia, Stout would not take the garbage out by Shills Silverstein. So, Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia, Stout would not take the garbage out. So it is very obvious that what is the sound or the consonant sound that is being repeated in that certain line by Shel Silverstein. So that is an alliteration, the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of the word. So that is the difference between alliteration, consonants, and as well as in the assonance. Okay, as for the last part of my part that I will be discussing about the parts of the poetry, we will be talking about imagery. So when we see imagery, it is also a very important part of a poetry wherein through poetry or through a poem, we would be able as a readers to create image into our mind wherein it gives us an additional exciting and then it gives us an additional definition of what we are reading. So in imagery, we have the precise language and the sensory details. So when we talk about the precise language, it is the use of specific words to describe a person, place, thing, or action. So, example, notice how Paul B. Gineco uses proper nouns in his poem Reverend Mona. When the elders said she was too old, Reverend Mona surrendered her tabernacle next to Fast Frankie's pawn shop. So, in this certain line of Paul B. Gineco's Reverend Mona, so he uses proper nouns in his poem. So that is precise language. You are using specific words to describe a person, place, or thing. So when we talk about sensory details, it is the use of descriptive details that appeal to one or more of the five senses. Example, so sensory details. So we're talking about our sensory. We have the sensory in seeing, tasting, then hearing. So that is the sensory details. We're in the use of descriptive details that appeal to one or more of the five senses. So we have here the example. So notice the sensory details in the following lines from The Sea by James Reeves. So the giant sea dog moans, licking his greasy paws. So when we talk about descriptive details, so it is a very obvious in this line wherein the giant sea dog moans. So when we talk about moans, we will be able to use of our sense of hearing. So licking his greasy paws. So we are using the sense of tasting. So sense of taste. So when we talk about imagery, we have the precise language and the sensory details. So that would be all for me for my part, and I would allow my reporters to discuss the following topics. That would be all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. This is Marvelanda Harokirong, one of a BSED 1 English major. This afternoon, I will tackle about the examples and explanation of poetry, the continuation of Miss Flores. And the example 1. The example 1 of all of the creatures create breath and more the earth, nothing is bread that is weaker than mine. In example 1 consists of Homer the Odyssey. Homer is a literature and a Greek poet. The style of Homer, he wrote epic poetry. Is anyone here an idea about epic poetry? Alright, epic poetry is a long poem, typically one derived from ancient oral tradition, narrating the deeds and adventures of heroic figures or the what we call the history of a nation. Example of this is the legend of Maria Makiling, right? So, the legend of Maria Makiling, it is because it portrays a narrative of a legendary figures. The next one is the example 2. The example 2 is a poetry gives powerful insights into the culture that created it. A powerful sights because of the author's imagination through that the science fiction and fantasy behind. Actually, there are several types of poetry. For for example, the dwarves, the elves, the habits, and the rhythm that the subject matter was supposed to show their difference of one another. And here we go to the importance of poetry. Now, the importance of poetry. Poetry, as we all know, poetry is an important, especially in literature, because the rhythm and the rhyme can make the text more memorable and thus easier to preserve culture that do not have a written language, right? So, the poetry can be written with the purposes as long as any other kind of culture. The For example, the humor, the beauty, humor, storytelling, or even the political messages. So here are the examples of poetry. So, for the example, the first example of poetry literature is, please everybody observe the Joyce Kilmer's the famous short poem. That the standard of the scheme is B, B, B. Am I right? B lines. The 1 and 2 rhymes together, while the 3 and 4 lines together rhymes together, and it's called iambic tetrameter. When you say iambic tetrameter, it consists of 4 lines. So, diba, the 1 line is called iammeter. That's the 2 lines called iambic diameter. Then the 3 lines called iambic trimeter, and the 4th here we call the iambic tetrameter. It is consist of 4 lines. So 4 lines kay, I think that I shall never see the first line. The second line is a poem lovely as a tree. Then the third line is poems are made by fools like me. Then the last line is but God can make a tree. So here are the another example of the iambic tetrameter. As you observe, it consists of 4 lines. So that's what Joyce Kilmer's famous short poem. So let's proceed to the example 2. The example 2 consists of free verse. The free verse, when we say free verse, kanang free siya pagka poem. Free verse poetry that has no rhyme, no particular meters, but still the rhythmic, the quality, and the meaning of the line is there. The last word of each line is imagery corrupt. When we say imagery corrupt, it is, for example, mo ni siya, the madness, the naked, the looking, or even the heavenly. Another example of a free verse poetry is like this. Diba? Oh, when you observe the free verse poem, kuan siya, wala siya nagbasi sa iyang kinalasan, or wala siya nagbasi kung na-rhyme ba na siya, or kanang pareha ba sukod ang iyang pagka-line. So that is what we call free verse poetry. Let's proceed to the example 3. The example 3, in the twilight rain, this brilliant wood hibiscus, a lovely sunset. So next to the hibiscus, di ba kuan ni siya, enjambment ang kuan ani, buot pasabot sa poetry, enjambment. When you say enjambment, the particular words nga naa pa siya sumpay. So nana siya enjambment. So in this example, it is a Japanese, Basho is a poet, Japanese poet, which is Basho is a haiku, a Japanese style that the same no rhyme and thus has no specific line. So when we observe, di ba na-observe na to nga, ang first line, it is consist from the beginning, in the twilight rain, di ba it consists of the five in the first line, di ba? 5 kay kuan, in 1, 2 ang the, twilight 3, 4, then ang rain is 5, ika 5. So muna siya. And the second line, it is consist of 7 in the second line. 7 kay this brilliant wood hibiscus. So 7. And the last line is it consists of 3. 3 in the third line. Kay a lovely, it consists of 3 in the third line. So let's proceed to the examples of poetry in popular culture. For when we say popular culture, it consists on more magical in movies, songs, and even in shows calling the character to reveal something. A one-liner, this mostly involves kasagara siya ma-involve sa television. For example, the movie of Miss Catherine Bernardo sa katong Got to Believe in Magic. Di ba nay one line dito nga mostly ginagamit ni Catherine katong sorry po. So that is one of the poetry in popular culture. Another example of that is the movie also of hindi mo siya movie. O consist na siya of movie katong entitled Barcelona, which is one of the character also is Miss Catherine Bernardo, which is the one line that mostly ginagamit adto is ang dili mostly ginagamit kanang kasaga, one of a famous line of Miss Catherine Bernardo is the mahalin mo ako dahil mahal mo ako. Diba? So, the next one is the example 2. The example two is some of the famous historical poems have been turned into movies or inspired episodes. So muna to siya ang example 2 sa example 2 on the poetry and culture is kuan karang one of the famous line of nga naging na movie. And I hope you really understand my report. Thank you for watching.
Good day, I am Jenny Joy S. Nango and I am from BSED English 2 and I am one of the members of the Group 3. So in this video, I will discuss to you the 3 remaining elements of poetry, which is the figurative language, elements of fiction, and lastly, the 20 poetic forms. So please bear with me. Okay, now let us discuss first what is a figurative language. So figurative language, it is a non-literal wording that adds creativity or rhetorical meaning to your writing. So we have the simile, the metaphor, and the personification, symbolism, and the other will be discussed later. So first, I will be discussing what is simile. So simile, it is a comparison of two unlike things using the word like or using the words like or as. For example, she whips like a wench that had shed her milk. So we have there the word like. So she is, or the author is describing whips. She whips like a wench. So the person or the she there whips like a wench. So we will continue to metaphor. So what is a metaphor? A metaphor, it is a comparison of two unlike things. As you can see, they have the similarities with simile, but metaphor is not using the words like or as. For example, love is a spirit all compact of fire. So love is being compared with a spirit, but not using the word but, or I mean not using the word like or as. So we have third, personification. So personification, it is to ascribe human traits to non-human or non-living things. For example, lightning danced across the sky. We all know that the sky cannot dance, and dancing or a person or a human living things is only can dance, or a person can dance and not the sky. So we will continue to symbolism. So what is symbolism? It is a person, place, thing, or actions that stands for something else. For example, he handed her a red rose and she knew at the moment how he felt. So a red rose there is standing or symbolizes how he felt, which is true love. The fifth one is the hyperbole. So a hyperbole, it is the use of exaggeration to express strong emotion or create a comical effect. For example, I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. We all know that even though we are so hungry, we cannot eat a horse. Second is a man may tear a jewel. So we all know is a jewel cannot be teared. So the sixth one is the verbal irony or sarcasm. So when you mean the opposite of what you say. For example, is the Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. So Mark Antony is our speaker there. So Mark Antony appears to praise Brutus. As you can see, he was saying that Brutus was ambitious and an honorable man. So he was praising Brutus, and the other assassin, while in reality, he is condemning them. So Mark Antony is condemning, or he's being sarcastic with Brutus. So next one is the situational irony. So it has same with verbal irony, but the difference is situational irony is when the outcome of the situation is the opposite of what is expected. So I know we are all familiar with Romeo and Juliet, which is written or written by William Shakespeare. So, when Romeo poisons himself, thinking Juliet is dead, the audience knows the tragic reality that she is just drugged. So as you can see, it is the opposite. The situation of the outcome of the situation is the opposite of what is expected. So we have, let's continue to pun. So a pun, it is a humorous phrase that plays with a double meaning or the similar sound of words. So pun is used to enlighten or to have a mood. So a pun example is a bicycle can stand on its own because it's too tired. So we all know that a bicycle has two tires, but the spelling of too tired here is the two or the TOO has TWO. So it is not, or it is used just to have a humorous or a laughing moment. So another example is, you were right, so I left. Okay. The second to the last will be the allusion. So allusion, it is a reference to a familiar person, place, or event. For example, John is the Einstein of the class. So we all know that Einstein is an intellectual person. So they are comparing John to Einstein, which is they think they are similar because they are both intelligent. So lastly, we have the idiom. So what is idiom? It is a cultural expression that cannot be taken literally. So it has deeper meanings. Example of this is, it's raining cats and dogs. So we all know that even if it rains, it will not rain cats and dogs. So this means that it's raining cats and dogs means that it is raining very heavily, or it is raining heavily. So that would be the examples of the figurative language, or the 10 figurative languages. So the fifth one is the elements of fiction. So we will discuss what are the elements of fiction. So we have we have 11 elements of a fiction. So first, let us define what is a narrative poem. So from the word itself, narrative, narrate. So narrative poem, it is a poem that tells a story. So what are the elements, or the 11 elements of fiction? First, we have the setting. So our setting, it is the time and place where a story or a poem takes place. So I know that you understand this very well because we have been discussing this since our senior high school, junior high school days. So point of view or narrative voice, the person narrating a story or poem. So we have the first person, the second person, and the third person. So the story could be narrated in first person. So this is the usage of I or we. The second person, this is the usage of you. And lastly, the third person limited, we have the he, she, and they. So the third one is the characterization. So we all know that every poem, every story has a character. So the characterization, it is the development of the characters in a story or poem. So what they say, what they look like, what they say and do, what their personalities are like, and what they think and feel, and how they are referred to or treated by others. So the next one, we have the dialogue. So the dialogue, it is the conversation between the characters in a story. So a story, it consists of characters, and of course the characters there will have the conversations. So now we have the dialect or the colloquial language. This is the particular style of speaking of the narrator and the characters in a story or poem. This is according to the region, time period, and social expectations. Now we have the conflict. This is the problem or situation a character faces in a story or poem. So a story is very boring when it doesn't have a conflict, right? So the conflict is the exciting part of the story. So another one is the plot. This is the series of events in a story or poem. So the plot, this is where we can say that wow, this is the plot or the sequence of the story, the series of events. Now we have the tone and voice. This is the distinctive or the idiosyncratic way of narrator has of telling a story or poem. This is the tone and voice depend on the intended audience, the purpose for writing, and the way the writer or poem feels about his or her subject. So the style, it is the way a writer uses words to craft a story or poem. So this is the writer's style, of course, and how he will or she will write his or her story. So another one is the mood. This is the feelings and emotion the writer wants the reader to experience. So the last one is the theme and message. Of course, every story and poem has a story or has a theme and a message. The theme and message, it is the main topic of a story or poem, and the message the author or poet wants to convey about the topic. So that are the 11 elements of a fiction. Now we will proceed to the 20 poetic forms. We have first acrostic. It is a poem in which the first letter of each word forms a word, usually a name if read out downward. So second is the couplet. It is a 2 lines of poetry that rhyme and usually form one complete idea. Third is the haiku. It is a Japanese 3-line poetic form. It is usually about nature. It has it with lines with 3, 7, and 5 syllables respectively. Fourth is a quatrain. It is a stand-up made up of 4 lines, often containing a rhyme scheme. Fifth is a cinquain. It is a 5-line entitled poem where the syllable pattern increases by 2 for each line, except for the last line which ends in 2 syllables. So we have the 2, 4, 5, 8, and 2. The sixth one is the limerick. It is a humorous rhyming poem written in 5 lines and having a particular meter. Number 7, we have the sonnet. It is a poem that is 14 lines long and it is generally written in iambic pentameter. Iambic parameter. The 8th one is the free verse, a poem that does not follow a predictable form or rhyme scheme or metric pattern. So it is a free verse. You are free to do whatever you want. Number 9 is the list or catalog poem. It is a poem in which the form of a list that uses sensory details and precise language to persuade the reader to take notice of what is being listed. Number 10 is the villanelle. It is a challenging poetic form that includes 5 3-line stanzas in a final quatrain and a pattern of repetition of lines 1 and 3 of the first stanza. Number 11, we have the ode. It is a poem that celebrates or praises something. Number 12, we have the lyric poetry. It is a poetry that expresses deep personal feelings, experience, and emotions. Number 13, we have the blank verse. It is a poem written in iambic pentameter but with no rhyme. Number 14, we have the blues poem. A poem that like blues songs and it deals with personal or world issues. Number 15, we have the nonsense poem. It is a fun, usually rhyming poem that makes no sense, focusing instead on the sounds and the rhyme of the poem. Number 16, we have the concrete poem. It is a poem that uses words to form the shape of the poem. So this is called the shape poem. Number 17, we have the narrative poem. It is a poem that tells a story. Number 18, we have the ballad, a poem that tells a story, usually written in 4-line stanzas. Number 19, we have the epic poem. It is a long and heroic narrative poem. Last but not the least, we have the images poetry. It is a poem that contains precise visual languages, and that are the 20 poetic forms. So don't you worry, because I will send you a link or I will send you a document that consists of the examples of this 20 poetic forms so that you can familiarize them and you can write on your own. So that would be the end of my report, and if you have any queries, you can Comment down below. And that would be all. Thank you so much for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Surgeon Rolida from BS Ed to English. So I am the last reporter of our group, in which our group task report is about the module 3. So basically, I am the last reporter in which I have the topic or the last topic, which is drama. So now let's go for our discussion. But first, before we will go to our deeper discussion about drama, let us first know what is a term drama or the definition about drama. So drama is a Greek term or a term from a Greek that it means dead or act. And also drama is a mode of fiction that represents through dialogue or performance, because drama is a way of imitating action. Also, drama is a written play in which it can see us through theater, television, radio, and also film. Alright, in a simple word, drama is contained or it shows or representing a story through dialogue or performance. And also, it has a conflict of the characters in which the one who performed in front of the audience on the stage are those, the dramatist or the drama. It has a direction in which it is known as dramatist or the writer. So now, let's go deeper to our discussion about drama. So there's a lot type of drama, but now let's just focus for those popular type of drama in which it is very common to us or it is very known to us what are those popular types of drama. But now let's just one by one or discuss it one by one. Alright, the first popular type of drama is comedies. So, do you have idea what is comedies? So, it is very familiar to us. What is comedies? Comedies from the word comedy. So, it is very funny or those content of their film or their movie is funny. Because comedies is a lighter tone of ordinary works in which it provides a happy conclusions. And also the goal of that movie is to make their audience laugh, right? So did you get it that comedies is in they wanted their audience or those who've seen their movie or their film is to make feel better or to feel confidence that they are always happy. They make them laugh. I know that you are very familiar of what is a comedy drama is, but I will give you some examples of those comedy dramas. So first, the film or the movie of Vice Ganda, in which entitled Private Benjamin, in which he is the one of the character as Private Benji, and also he has a co-soldier or his friend. And also we have a drama of our comedy king in which Dolphy is our comedy king, in which all of his drama as a real film is concluded of it belongs to comedy because he is a comedy king. So all of his work or all of his film is those film, it has a conclusion of a happy. There's a lot of comedy drama. Those film or comedy that the main character is the purpose of him or his or her goal is to make their audience laughter or happy or enjoy while watching his film or movie. For example, we have Vice Ganda, Private Benjamin. We have also a Dolphy because Dolphy is our comedy king. And we have also other actor or actresses that perform or made a comedy drama. Like I de las Alas, like Vex Soto. Because Vic Soto is very familiar to us because he always perform or he always act as anything. So now let's go to another type of drama. Next, we have a tragedy drama. So, tragedy drama is the use of darker themes such as disaster, pain, death, because that drama is the protagonist. It has, or it is the one who, or a protagonist is a, it has a characteristics that leads them to their downfall, in which those movies that have, or film that has a contrabida, that contrabida make a conflict of that, made a conflict in that movie, in which he or she is the one, the cause of the accident, or the cause of the unusual happened, like revenge of the family, the one who made problem of the character. The third one is farce. Farce is a nonsensical genre of drama in which that movie or film is not a sense. It doesn't have sense for the audience what happened next. So it's just this prediction of what happened, but it is not. They wrong. They have a wrong prediction. What will be the next to be happen in that movie. Alright, the fourth type of drama is melodrama. Melodrama is a drama, or a type of drama in which it directly get the appeals of sense of the audience, what is the point or what will be the next happened in that movie. Just like farce, that they know what will happen. They are predicting, but in farce they have a prediction what will happen, but that's not really the next that happened on that movie. So, bale, nag-predict sila nga mao niya mosunod nga mahitabo, pero dili daay mao. So, murag nonsensical, wala sila kabalo, nagtagna-tagna lang sila og unsa ang mahitabo sunod. But in melodrama, directly gets the appeal of the sense of the audience what will be the next to be happen in that movie. So, kabalo na sila. So now, let's go on to the last type of drama, in which it is called musical drama. If we have a comedy drama, if we have a farce drama in which it has disaster, pain, death, we have a farce. So farce is nonsensical. We didn't know what that movie or what is the next to happen in that movie. We have a melodrama that it is directly gets the appeal of the audience. What will be the next happen of that movie? But now, musical drama is a drama consists of music, not only through performing or presenting to through dialogues or acting, but it is used also in music, or like dancing. The dramatas are performing, singing, dancing in that particular movie. For example of the musical drama is the movies that came from, or the work from the Indian. While they are performing the scene, or while they are acting or performing through dialogue, they are dancing or they are singing. So, it is one of the example of a musical drama that it used in music in while they are performing in stage, or while they are performing their scenes in that story or in that film. Also, drama has a structure. Not only this poetry is a novel or poem has a structure, but also drama. Drama also has a structure, and it's called plot, in which it includes the beginning, middle, and also the ending. So the plays also features the conflict. It does not necessarily mean a argument or fight, but it is called obstacle that it is need to overcome. A typical drama structure is linear, with events occurring chronologically. So what is linear? So linear, this create a clear and contained viewing to experience that lead the audience from one scene to next while building their interest and the tensions. For in short, the event presented specifically order. So, from first to the end. So, gasunod ang tanang mga event. Or in that movie, it has a specific order or specific flows that the audience know the first thing happened until the next. So, bali gasunod rigid siya. Alright, first is the exposition in which it introduced the background, the event, and also the character of the main of in that story. So it presented there the character, what are the possible personality or where that story happened. Next, we have the rising action in which it is the series that the events create a suspense of a narrative. So, diha na tong mag-start nga na mga suspense or in dili pa siya intense but suspense lang mga first move in order to reach the climax. To climax is specifically the part of the story where the suspense reaches the highest part of that movie, in which it is the time or the part of the story that encounter the problem of the main character. So bali diha na tong mga intense part or intense scene of that story. And then next we have the falling action. Falling action is kadang it's starting resolution or resolve the main problem of that story. It is slowly solving the problem. Then next we have the resolution, in which that is the end of the story, that the problem will totally resolve, and also those protagonists, those questioned in the story will be answered. Also, structure can also be a non-linear, with through the action play moving forward or backward, in that through the use of flashback and flash forward, in which those audience or who are watching that movie is just playing the exciting points of the movie, in which non-linear is not arranged or dili siya arranged sa movie. Wala nagkasunod-sunod. It's not chronologically arranged the events of that story or in that movie that played. So bali gipangita lang nila tong mga exciting part of that story, in which they are flashback or ibalik nila sa exciting part or i-forward nila to know what will be the next to be happening. So now lastly, we will know what is the function or the purpose of drama. So drama is a literary form through which the dramatist can directly speak to the reader or the audience, and directly give or instantly receive a feedback from their audience. For example, for that is through role play or drama, or you are giving a task in school for your teacher that you need to play or to act a role play, and after your role play, the teacher or the audience can give you feedback of what are the mistakes or the good or unsay mga possible nakita nila while you are performing in front of them. So, okay, the main purpose of the drama is it is very catchable for the audience, that kanang ma-feel nila engaging the feelings for the movie, engaging their feelings to the movie, and also engaging their mind to that movie, na ma-feel nila, ma-change nila ang ilang feelings while watching that movie. For example, the comedy, sad ka, anger ka, but you are watching a comedy, so your feelings will change. You will be happy, you will be you're always laughing while watching the comedy movie. So that is the purpose of the drama, changing your moods, your personality, and relating your feelings through the movie, in order for you to find your peace in that drama. So that's all my task report, but please take note the types of a drama, which are the comedy, tragedy, farce, melodrama, and also lastly we have the musical drama. And also the structure of the drama, it is very important that we need to know what are the structure of the drama or the plot of the drama. We have the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So that's all for my task report. Thank you for watching.